to other women, Patnyam to his own wife, Arda half, Iva like, Atmana of his body, Prajasu unto the citizens. Actually, I was in Japan with Srila Prabhupada, fortunate of being in Japan with Srila Prabhupada in 1972, when he was introducing the chanting of the Sanskrit to the devotees, because it was all Westerners. So before that, no one gave any emphasis to the Sanskrit. And what Prabhupada actually wanted, explained to us at that time, was that every day, this is the reason why we say the word by words. We say the Sanskrit and the translation, because at the end of every day, everyone basically was supposed to have memorized the sloka and understood its meaning. Then every day he had us not only chant this verse, but all the verses in the chapter before this verse, then this verse, and then everyone, every devotee in the room chant the verse. Of course, it may not be so practical with so many wonderful devotees here, but everyone would chant the verse, and Prabhupada would correct their pronunciation. So carefully he was teaching us. Respect the Bhagavatam and respect the Sanskrit of the Bhagavatam. And again, at the end, because there's such a tendency while we're saying the word by words to allow our minds not to go and to be somewhere else. And the difference, one of the differences between an adult and a child, a young child, is that adults learn the art of making believe that they're there while things like this are going on, but their minds are somewhere else. And a child, as soon as their mind goes, their body starts going also. So the adults have mastered the fine art of hypocrisy, meaning having one thing on the outside and one thing on the inside. But actually, there's something very wonderful to be learned from every verse, every sloka, every text of the Bhagavatam. Is like a piece of a hidden jewel sometimes. So when we read the Bhagavatam, and especially after we read the translation and purports by Srila Prabhupada, we try to find what the jewel is, such instructions that are important for us. Do you think that when we read this verse and this purport of Prabhupada's, do you think that there will be something important for you in that will be helpful in your spiritual life? If we think like that, then by the mercy, yeyatam mam prapadyante, by the mercy of this holy book, very important truths for you even. So please listen carefully. Prajasu unto the citizens, Pitrivat, like a father. So what's being described here with Maharaj Vandanas, there are people who they're expert at describing the glories of another. So they are describing the glories of Maharaj Prithu before he actually acts in a glorious way, but they see the future. So this is something, what we're going to hear in this verse, is something, the qualities that make a king glorious. So what does it mean when a king is glorious? Raise your hands. What does it mean? What will be the effect on the citizens if a king is glorious?
हरे कृष्णा. सॉरी महाराज, सॉरी प्रभु जी. जो लोग हिंदी में अनुवाद सुनना चाहते हैं, पीछे हिंदी में अनुवाद हो रहा है, तो कृपा करके पीछे चले जाएं हिंदी में अनुवाद सुनने के लिए.
What will be the effect? Thank you. What will be the effect if a king is glorious? What does glorious mean? Raise your hands. What does it mean? What does glorious mean? What does glorious mean exactly? Yes, good qualities, but not only good, but wonderful qualities that make the quality is so exalted, so great that it stands out. So if the king has glorious qualities, yes, the citizens will be happy, but what else? If you see someone who has glorious qualities, what's an example of a glorious quality in a person, in a man? What is an example of a glorious quality in a man? What that would make him being praised? What quality in a man will make him being praised by others? Raise your hand. Bhakti, yes. But what quality in society and in general will cause him to be praised by everyone? Any quality. Honesty. If someone, his words are always true, that person is valued. And actually, if a person has that kind of honesty, what he says, vaksiddhi, it will have so much potency, his words will always be true, come true. So honesty, what else? Etiquette, sadachar. So if someone is very, very gentle in their dealings, is glorious. What other quality? Raise your hand, otherwise I just hear a voice. Truthfulness, yes. That is like honesty, yes. Humility. No pride. Oh, I am the greatest. The one who is allowed to think I am the greatest is the one who is the greatest. Everyone else is an illusion if they think they are the greatest. One more quality. Raise your hand if you have a quality. Yes. Purity, if he's pure. What does pure mean? Follows exactly. He has no impurity, he has no swarta in his heart. Someone who works for the welfare of others. Someone who is charitable. These are glorious qualities. So if the king has glorious qualities, what will be the result? Everyone will be happy? Yes, Paul. Everyone will listen to him. Yes, that means that everyone will listen to him. Yes. What else will happen? Okay, but what will the citizens do if the king has glorious qualities? Because when you see someone who has glorious qualities, immediately, yes. Yes, thank you. If the king has glorious qualities, then the citizens will naturally develop glorious qualities. Yad yad acharati sheshtas. I remember when I was growing up, there was a president in the United States named Kennedy. And when he was inaugurated as president, he was the first one who didn't wear a hat. Didn't wear a hat. Just like when our Prime Minister Modi, he wore a pagri. That's more formal. So this president, he didn't wear a hat. And immediately, the hat industry went down. No one would wear hats anymore. Because what a great person does, the leader does, everyone will follow their example. So here is the example that Prithu Maharaj was going to show. And these qualities are glorious. And of course, these qualities, naturally, we will desire to develop. So it is important to listen. Prajashu, unto the citizens, Pitrivat, like a father, Snigdha, affectionate, Kinkara, servant, Brahma Vadinam, of the devotees who preach the glories of the Lord. Now here is Srila Prabhupada's translation. And my habit in a class is that as soon as I read the translation, I'm going to ask you the difficult question of, is there anything you remember? I won't ask you the very difficult question of, does anyone remember anything from yesterday's class? Although I should. Because class means we should learn. So please listen to the translation. The king will respect all women as if they were his own mother. And he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like an affectionate father to his citizens. And he will treat himself. First we heard how he will treat others, but how will he treat himself? He will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees who always preach the glories of the Lord. Raise your hand if you remember something. Yes, Prabhu. Loudly. Yes, he will treat all women as if they were his own mother. Thank you. Anyone remember anything else? Yes. What does that mean? You're the wrong person to ask. Yes, he will treat himself as the servant of the divine. This is how he will think himself. This is culture. That means he will take guidance from the devotees, from those who are Brahmavadinam, from Shastra. Taking guidance from devotees means taking guidance from Shastra. This is Brahminical culture. There's a wonderful description of this in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam of in the 5th chapter. Who knows who the person, what is the topic of the 5th chapter of the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam? Oh, yes. Yes, yes. Rishabdev Maharaj is instructing his sons. And after he gives them instructions, he tells them to listen to Bharat. That all of the other 99 sons should listen to Bharat. So does that mean that Bharat is the dictator and no one is above him? No. He explains further that Bharat will listen to the Brahmins. And the Brahmins will listen to Shastra. That's Brahmavadinam. And Shastra is the words, the shiksha, the instructions of Krishna. So this is the unique and most wonderful concept of Vedic society, that everyone is a servant and serves others. According to the Western culture, which India is very humbly tends to follow nowadays, everyone is a master and wants to make everyone else the servant. This causes such chaos, competition, strife, anxiety. And this concept of everyone being a servant of Parapartasarti, Sisikonata, Ram Lakshman Hanuman, this what makes a temple different from every other place. That when we come into the temple, just look at all the devotees who come in. Come in and they offer their respects to the Lord. And the devotees who are part of the community of devotees, their mood should be, I act for the pleasure of my Lord. Servant. And does that mean I serve the Lord and don't serve anyone else? That is the very definition of a bhakta praya, like a devotee, kanishta as we say. That I serve the Lord and push everyone else out of the way. No. Bhakta jana priya. Krishna says, Lord Narayan says, he aswatantra ivan ripa. I am not independent, the Lord says. I am the servant. Aham bhakti paradino. Devotees are so dear to me, but not only are the devotees dear to me, bhakta priyajana, those who are dear to the devotees, who serve the devotees, they are dear to me. I may not be a devotee, not be a devotee, not a devotee, but if I could just become a devotee and serve, that person, that soul becomes dear to. And he protects such a devotee. Not only that Krishna protects the greatest of devotees, he protects the devotees of the devotees too. He takes care of them. In the pastime of Ajamil, this point comes out so strongly that when the Yamadutas approach Yamaraj after the Vishnudutas have stopped them from taking Ajamil's soul, they approach him and says, we thought that you, death, were the most powerful in this world, the superintendent of death. Because in death, in this world, death destroys everyone. In the past, in the present, in the future, it destroys everyone. but it doesn't destroy the devotees. Everyone is afraid of death in this world, except when we are in illusion and forget our situation. Because everyone is under the control of death, but not the devotees. Dhruv Maharaj stepped upon death's head when he went to Vaikuntha. So, when the Yamadutas could not put their control over Ajamil, they approached him and asked, they approached Yamaraj and asked why. And Yamaraj replied, Nama Viharana Vishnu Atas Visyamati, that by chanting the name of Vishnu, Krishna, then that the Lord, Vishnu's mati, his intelligence, his attention goes to the devotee, that person who chants his name. Now this is incredible, that the Lord, who is Sarvagya, he's all-pervading, he is doing everything ultimately. Still, when a devotee chants his name, his attention goes to that person directly. And as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, and Prabhupada says in his purport, and Krishna thinks, it is my duty to give that soul protection. Therefore he sent the Yamadutas. But one may ask, well, I don't chant. My mind wanders when I chant. I don't chant Shuddhanam, Premanam. Will the Lord still protect me? Will he take care of me? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Because this is Kamutya Nyaya. If Ajamil, who was calling his son, the Lord came to protect him, this means what to speak of one who is chanting with attention or trying to sincerely serve. So that is the meaning of that pastime. If Krishna will protect Ajamil, who is calling his son Narayana, but without aparad, but calling his son only, how much more will the Lord take care of the devotee who is trying to surrender and give himself in the Lord's service? Very important. So the king thought himself, his identity, his abhiman, he thought of himself as the servant of the devotees. And this again is the key in living in the community of devotees. We serve those who want to serve the deities. The key of having a community of devotees is everyone thinks of themselves as the servant of the masters of the temple of the community, and serves the others and helps them move forward. Doing that is called humility. Prabhupada actually said this. This is the key in a community. Not just a temple, but a temple too, but a community is that everyone rallies around or comes before the deities to serve. So, I'll just translation again. The king will respect all women as if they were his own mother. He would treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like an affectionate father to his citizens. And he will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees who always preach the glories of the Lord. And here is Srila Prabhupada's purport. You know what I'm going to do after I finish reading the purport? You know? What? What will I do? What question will I ask? Huh? Very difficult question. Do you remember anything? Sometimes when I do this, the devotees say they take out their notebooks and write things down so they won't be caught. Okay, please listen. A learned man, here's Srila Prabhupada's purport. If Srila Prabhupada was sitting here and speaking, this is what he would want to tell us. A learned man treats all women except his wife as his mother. He looks on others' property as garbage in the street and treats others as he would treat his own self. A learned man, a cultured person. These are the symptoms of a learned person as described by Chanakya Pandit. And this should be the standard of education, not programming in C++. There be culture in education. Then there can be peace in society. Okay, I'll make it easy for you. Does anyone remember anything that I just read? Yes. Treats others as he would treat his own self. As you would like others to treat you, you treat others. Very handy to know, because sometimes we're in a situation and we don't know what to do. Should I do this or that? Here is a very handy sutra. How would I like to be treated in this situation? And as I would like to be treated, I should treat that person. Thank you. Anyone else remember something? Yes. What does that mean? We throw it away. What does that mean? Yes, but even more than that. Srila Prabhupada told, he said in Kashmir, even 50 years ago, which means now it's 100 years ago, if someone dropped something, their wallet or something, on the street, or their cell phone, no one would touch it. It was against the law to touch it. You would be punished if you would touch it. Even if you say, oh, I'm just going to give it back to the owner. No. Just like you would not touch garbage in the street and give it back to its owner. And therefore, and Prabhupada explained, there was a king at that time, and he was so strict, and the society was very, very well run. No crime. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Listen to this. You're going to like this next sentence. One should execute what he has learned in his personal life. Now, what does Prabhupada mean by that? One should execute what one has learned in his personal life. What is the meaning of that? As in regard to what we're doing right now. That's someone who hasn't spoken yet. What is the meaning of that? What is Prabhupada sitting here telling us to do? I'm going to call on someone who hasn't. Yes. Yes. So what does that mean? What does he want us to do? What did we just learn? What he's saying, as you all know, but what is he saying right here? He's just told us certain things. We should treat women except wife as mother, look on others' property as garbage in the street, treat others as he would treat his own self. These are the symptoms of a learned person as described by Chanakya Pandit. This should be the standard of education, and education does not mean having academic degrees only. One should execute what he has learned in his personal life. We should take these things. These are the instructions of Prabhupada. This is the instructions of Shastra. This is the instructions of Chanakya Pandit. And we should follow them in our life. That's very radical. Actually, do these things. We should be kind to others and respectful to everyone. But specifically, yes, true, very good. But specifically, what we're hearing, we should apply in our life. Beginning, of course, not today, but kal, pasun, badme, no, abhi, more. These learned characteristics were verily, truthfully manifest in the life of King Prithu. Although he was the king, he treated himself as the servant of the Lord's devotees. According to Vedic etiquette, if a devotee came to the king's palace, the king would immediately offer his own seat to him. Who knows an example of this? Yes. Yes. Dharma Brahmana, he came. What did Krishna immediately do? He immediately stood up. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We don't want to be servants. We want to, at least I shouldn't say we, but I want to be big master. Ishwaraham maham bhogi siddhaham balavam sukhi. But Krishna serves the devotees. Advaita Charya didn't want to be treated with respect. He wanted to serve, to be chastised by Mahaprabhu. Pastime with Sudama Brahmana is so sweet. So sweet. How Sudama was so poor. To bring a gift to Krishna, he had nothing in the house. So he had to beg for something to bring to Krishna when he visited Krishna in Dwarka. And he brought something, some chipped rice. How do you say in Hindi? Chora. Cheer. Some chipped rice, very inexpensive, not something wonderful. Tied it in his cloth, and he walked to Dwarka. Didn't have a scooter or Maruti. Just walked to Dwarka. And as he was walking, some of his local Brahmana associates came with him. And they were not stopped at the gate. India may be too nowadays, but in the West, someone comes to your door and then there's a little hole in the door. Kaun hai? And then if you're the one on the door, you ring the bell or something, and then you hear 5 different locks being taken off if they're going to let you in. Because everyone is so fearful of who it is at my door. But Sudama walked right into the Ekendra, the king of all kings' palace. And there he was. He was so poor and poverty-stricken. He was so thin, and his cloth was dirty and old. And because he was a Brahmana, not actually because he was a Brahmana, but because he was a Brahmana, because he was the Lord's devotee, he loved Krishna. Soon as he walked into the palace, Krishna stood up and embraced him. My old school friend Sudama is here. This is the Mama Tejo Angsa Sambhava. Everything is resting on Krishna's potency, his Shakti. And this is how he is acting with his devotees. Such affection, such respect. And then he sits them down as Mohan Rupa worshipped him because he was a Brahmana, and Krishna was a Kshatriya, acting as if a Kshatriya. And then two very interesting points come out at the end, and then we know he spoke about their time together in the Gurukul, and then when it was time to leave, did Sudama ask for anything? No. Nothing. And did Krishna say, "Don't worry, I'll give you so much"? No. So, and then Sudama left. And then he was thinking as he was going, "Oh, I did not ask for anything. Krishna did not give me anything. This is mercy to me. Because if I have wealth, I'll forget all about Krishna." One devotee once wrote Srila Prabhupada a letter and said, once I heard, very old devotee, Rupanuga Prabhu, he wrote Prabhupada a letter and said, "I have heard that a yogi can make gold. Could you tell us how we can make gold? And that way," this is the temple president's dream, I think, "and then we'll be able to make nice gold altars for Krishna." That's what he wrote Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada wrote back, and he explained the process. Yogi can do it by eating mercury and then that. But of course, if you're not a yogi, mercury will kill you. So don't try it. But then he said, but there's no need for us to do this, because there's such a tendency, if we have gold, to forget about Krishna. So don't do this. So Sudama was thinking like this, that Krishna didn't give me anything because he knows that if I have wealth, I'll forget about him, and I don't want it. He's so kind to me. But then, when he got to his own place, he saw so much opulence had been manifest. So our acharyas explain why Krishna did not give anything to Sudama in front of his face. And the reason was that, very sweet reason, that Sudama begged something from Krishna and gave it to Krishna. That means he gave Krishna more than he himself had. He had to beg it. It was more than he had. And Krishna thought, I'm in a very difficult situation. There is nothing more than I have. Everything is my energy. So I can't equally reciprocate with Sudama. So he was feeling very lajja. Is that the right word? Or he was very embarrassed very shy that he could not reciprocate with Sudama properly. So therefore he didn't say anything. He just, by the mercy of Rukmini Devi, the goddess of fortune. And another question may be asked, and I don't know the exact verse, that there's a reference to this in the 11th canto in Uddhav Gita, but it describes how Sudama had to walk all the way from Porbandar, where his place is. Anyone been to Porbandar and seen Sudama's house? Has anyone? So it is a long distance. So why didn't Krishna at least send him back by chariot or something? And the answer is that he wanted his devotees' footsteps to purify his own kingdom. There's a verse that describes this walking, the places where the devotees have walked, purifying. But Krishna is very sweet. And Prithu Maharaj is Krishna, he's Avesh. Krishna empowering Prithu to act in such a way as the ideal king. So let's finish the purport. Brahma Vadi refers to the devotees of the Lord. Brahman, Paramatman, Bhagawan are different terms for the Supreme Brahman. And the Supreme Brahman is Lord Krishna. What verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Param, Brahma, Param, Dhamma, Pavitram. This is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita by Arjuna, 10:12. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. Thus the word Brahma Vadinam refers to the devotees of the Lord. The state should always serve the devotees of the Lord, and the ideal state should conduct itself according to the instructions of the devotee. Because King Prithu followed this principle, he is highly praised. Stop here. I'm already a little late. Does anyone have any questions? What's your name? Shreyas. What do you do? Studying.
Java.
Java. Not C++. Why? You have to apply in your life what you learn, not when you're studying Java, though. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, thank you, Prabhuji. So the question was, we should, from this we learned that one aspect is we should treat others as our own self, as we would want to treat ourselves.
We would want ourselves to be treated.
Yes. Thank you for correcting, Prabhuji. So, in this world, when we do that, what happens is the rule of the material world is either exploit or be exploited. So, when we treat others in that way, there are tendencies that we will end up being exploited. So, please explain, Prabhuji, in the society of devotees as well as in the material world, how to apply this.
Yes. Yes, good question. So, there are two things in devotional life always. There is the ideal, the theoretical truth, ideal principle, the ideal way of acting, and then there's the practical application of that to this circumstance. So we always begin with the ideal, the best. And then we have to apply it to practical life. There's an example, and to be able to take, if we just begin with the practical, then our actions will take us in the wrong direction. But at least we should always recognize what the ideal is. And to be able to apply the ideal in a practical way is called wisdom. Vigyan, that is wisdom. So, an example of this is given by Kapila Muni in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam. He explains that there are so many, everyone is a soul. Every entity is a soul. And we should treat everyone with compassion. But a tiger is also a soul. But we shouldn't embrace the tiger, thinking, oh, well, you're a soul. So that's wisdom, practical wisdom. So dealing with materialistic people is, practically speaking, like dealing with a tiger. So we have to be very careful when dealing with a tiger and be very practical. But especially dealing with the devotees, gentle. And in the society of devotees, if this mood is dominant, then everything will be especially sweet. So does that answer your question? Yes, but means no. Okay, go ahead. You're dealing with a tiger. You're dealing with more than tigers. So you get a new job. Is it clear? Dealing with a person who is completely materialistic is dealing with a tiger. You come close to them, they will scratch you. They will kill you. Be practical, be careful. But don't carry that mentality dealing with the devotees. Especially how we deal with the devotees. If the devotees sometimes scratch us, okay, but we shouldn't scratch others. Is it clear now? Yeah, but, or actually clear? Are you sure? Okay. Last question, if there's another question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I recently met a relative of mine who has lived in the West for some time, and we were talking about spirituality and all these things in Indian culture regarding how to see a lady, how to see well as. So he feels that India, even though a spiritually rich nation, but in modern times, he feels that in the West, people are more of adopting these values than Indians, who, because of as we see in Srila Prabhupada's early days in India, many of his disciples, Western disciples, they got cheated by the contractors, by the merchants, and there were very unfair dealings with them. So he is of the view that in the West, even though people may not be spiritually inclined, but they have more of these moral values than currently seen in Indians. So I don't feel that way, but because I don't have much of an experience of the whole global values, so I wish to know from you, is it true that in modern times we in India are far off from these values than the Western counterparts of ours?
Because I haven't lived in the West very much. And also I haven't lived in India. I live in ISKCON. I don't know about either. So it's very hard for me to answer that question. But there are good, pious people everywhere, and everywhere in every country, and also there are rogues and thieves and gundas everywhere too. What to do? I find myself sometimes in a funny position because I left the United States when I was 20 years old maybe, and then went to preach. And then Hong Kong, and then I lived in India, in Vrindavan for 13 years. Now I live half the year in Australia. So when I'm in Australia, too much an American and an Indian, so I don't feel comfortable there. And when I'm in the United States, I'm too much an Indian, so I don't feel comfortable there. And then when I'm in India, Safed, Angrezi, so my home is at the lotus feet of Prabhupada and all the devotees. That's all. Okay, last question. Because you had your hand, oh, sorry, he's disappeared. Yes, you. Prabhu. What is your name? Okay.
Love. Actual love in my heart for Krishna. What the process?
Yes. This is the same question I am asking myself. How to develop some love for Krishna. But of course, you know what the answer is? Use your association very carefully. Because according to who you associate with, different desires come to your heart. Associate with those who are more advanced than you, who have more love for Krishna than you have. So do you know anyone who has more attraction to Krishna and Krishna Katha than you do, and the holy names? Any devotees who are like that?
His Grace Rasraj Prabhuji.
But I think only one?
Srila Prabhupada.
But I think so many. I mean, no offense to you. There are so many devotees, when they chant, they feel such happiness. When they read Krishna Katha about Krishna and Vrindavan, about Krishna, any Bhagavatam, they feel so much happiness. So if we can't find anyone more advanced than us, we are in a difficult situation, certainly. But if we can see that there are many, many devotees who they desire to serve, they have such a desire, they perform so many difficulties just to please Prabhupada, like distributing his books, and they don't have time for anything else except for chanting and serving, and live such a simple, austere life. And I see that there are many temples. I know in Australia, because I don't know the devotees, many of the devotees here very well, but I know in Australia, like in Melbourne, there are so many devotees who have full-time, they work full-time, they give so much of their money, they come to Mangal Arati, they go to evening programs, they study Shastra, they serve all day long. It's just so wonderful to see the quality of the sincerity of the devotees. What do you think? Do you have? And also there's Shastra. Do you study the Bhagavatam? Seriously?
I am trying to study.
Yeah. Study the Bhagavatam. There's so much valuable instructions in there, and the Bhagavad Gita, of course. What to speak of Chaitanya Charitamrita? Have you read Chaitanya Charitamrita?
What, Prabhuji?
Have you read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita? You are so fortunate because you have something wonderful to look forward to. It is the sweetest of all books. And Mahaprabhu was teaching exactly what you're asking. He's teaching by his personal example how to develop love for Krishna. Tears are coming from his eyes. And then when someone says to him, you have so much love for Krishna, he says, Na prema gandha asti. I don't even have the slightest fragrance even. Do you have someone who you are close to, who advises you, can tell you what a good next step would be for you, that you trust? Then you are very fortunate. Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sisi Radhaparta Sarti Lalita Vasaka Devi ki jai, Sisi Gonatai ki jai, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.